1 year in, COVID-19 has aggravated debt distress in the poorest countries, and that could hurt their ability to finance their future. Reducing debt would allow countries to focus resources where they're really needed, on building a green, resilient, inclusive recovery. Let's take a look at how government debt can affect the lives of everyday people, for better or for worse. Here to explain is One Young World Ambassador Zainab Haruna.
When you or I need to buy a house, we might apply for a loan. Governments do the same and borrow money from different lenders to build roads, schools, and hospitals. It adds up to an enormous amount of money. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. How countries invest and handle their debts can determine whether their people thrive or languish. Developing countries had a record $55 trillion in debt, even before COVID-19 hit. Debt sustainability is a growing concern as countries respond to the pandemic, struggling with urgent financing needs. When countries can finance their future in a sustainable way and invest in their people, everyone wins. That's why debt matters for every single one of us.
World Bank Group President David Malpass invited 3 important thought leaders to share their ideas on how to better manage debt crises quickly and efficiently to get the world back on track for a resilient recovery.
Angola has gone through a reprofiling of its debt. I wondered if you could describe the impact of debt on the people of Angola. Why was the reprofiling important, and what were some of the challenges?
We were suffering the consequences of the pandemic. Of course, we were coming from a starting point that were not easy. We were dealing with recessions for so many years, and the pandemics just make it worse for the Angolan economy. And as you know, highly dependent on oil. We really believe that to deal with all these challenges in a sustainable way is to make sure that we diversify our economy, that we break our dependency on oil, that we grow on an inclusive manner. And if that happens, the interest rates will decrease.
We're working currently with Chad, with Ethiopia, with Zambia, who have requested common framework treatment. How do you see that playing out? Will it work, I wonder?
We are very encouraged by the way the G20 and the Paris Club has engaged the private sector on the G20 framework. And we believe that's going to be critical to make sure that it works in terms of having the private sector at the table early.
Any direct advice that you want to give to the international community on the debt problem? Is it a big problem, and what could be done, 1 or 2 things that would make it move along in a better direction than in the past?
It's very clear that for a large group of countries, that debt servicing is now compromising the ability of governments to provide basic services for some of their most vulnerable citizens and for children. This is an opportunity for the world to come together on behalf of children and to convert what are essentially unpayable debt liabilities in many cases into investments in human capital, and in particular capital and support for children to make sure that they get the education, the nutrition, the decent health that they have a right to.
Young leaders and entrepreneurs from all over the world sent us videos sharing their thought. Let's take a moment to hear what they have to say.
If I could finance my future, I would pursue a graduate degree and invest in a home.
If I could finance my future, I would keep on investing in my own business.
I would be supporting more women entrepreneurs through my expanded business to empower themselves.
I will be able to open my business, which will provide my family a better lifestyle and income.
I would travel as many places around the world.
Haría crecer mi emprendimiento para dar trabajo a otras personas.
I would have peace of mind in overcoming the current Lebanese economic crisis.
I could get a student loan with a low interest rate in order to afford my MBA studies.
Right now, my biggest financial goal is to save more.
It's to pay off my student loans.
To buy a home, a car,
to save more and invest more.
You've studied financial crises over the past 800 years. What's different about this crisis?
Because it's a pandemic, one of the exceptional things about this crisis is that it's really hit everyone. The synchronicity in output declines in 2020 is something you have not seen historically. Even before COVID, a significant share of countries were either in debt distress or in a high likelihood of debt distress. Since COVID, that number has increased. So the common framework moves from the recognition that these problems are temporary to that the problems are more structural, that debt reduction of one form or another is needed.
Over the years, Africa has been hit by cycles of debt buildups and then crises. You've seen the setbacks when budgets become tight and payment difficulties become the greatest concern. How are people and development programs affected during those crises?
There's a severe risk we'll be adding another generation of poorly educated and unskilled young people to the ones we already have. Because we are spending our limited resources on debt repayments and social protection for the most vulnerable. So as I see it, by 2020, we all know this, Africa will have more people entering the labor market than any world region. If they are not gainfully employed, we will have social and political unrest. So it seems to me we need a robust solution.
We've heard a lot about how much debt and financing can help or hinder a resilient recovery in developing countries. The way countries handle their borrowing today will determine whether they can achieve their development goals tomorrow and into the future. It will also weigh heavily on the financial hopes and dreams of citizens everywhere, especially youth.
In 5 years, I hope that I can buy a home for my parents.
I hope that I would have recovered resources that I lost due to the government defaulting on its debt.
I hope that I am living debt-free and financially stable.
I hope that I am able to give access to financing to 100 people of my generation from emerging countries.
Espero poder tener una casa propia y sentirme más cómoda manejando mi presupuesto.
I hope that I would start a family and get on the Aggie 100 list.
To travel to the countries that I have never traveled to, and consider saving up for cash for any kind of emergency situations.
The current financial system doesn't work for me. Let's fix it.
The current financial system doesn't work for me. Let's fix it.
El actual sistema financiero no funciona para mí. Vamos a cambiarlo.
Let's fix it.
خلينا نصلحه.
Айде да го поправим.
Let's fix it.
Let's fix it.
Let's fix it.